UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak seals a deal to resolve post-Brexit trade issues over Northern Ireland, but can he get the backing of the DUP? President Zelensky welcomes US Secretary of the Treasury Janet Yellen for a surprise visit to Kyiv, as Washington sends more financial aid to Ukraine. EU energy ministers say huge investments are needed if the bloc is to have any hope of achieving its renewable energy plans. The UK's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak appeared upbeat as he announced he'd sealed a deal to resolve post-Brexit trade issues over Northern Ireland.
After weeks of negotiations today, we have made a decisive breakthrough. The Windsor Framework delivers free-flowing trade within the whole United Kingdom. It protects Northern Ireland's place in our union, and it safeguards sovereignty for the people of Northern Ireland.
But he's only over the first hurdle. Now it's time to convince Northern Ireland's politicians, especially the Democratic Unionist Party.
In broad terms, it is clear that significant progress has been secured across a number of areas, whilst also recognising that there remain key issues of concern. There can be no disguising the fact, for example, that in some sectors of our economy in Northern Ireland, EU law remains applicable in our part of the United Kingdom.
The DUP's support will be key to restoring power sharing in Northern Ireland. They've been boycotting the devolved government until its concerns over the Northern Ireland Protocol are resolved. Sinn Féin wants that to end.
What I've said consistently throughout the whole of the Brexit debate is that the people here have been left in limbo, they've left with uncertainty. I'm hoping that today, because we're at the end of the negotiation, the deal is now done.
The protocol had aimed to ensure free movement of goods across the Irish land border by conducting checks between Northern Ireland and Great Britain instead. But under the treaty, Northern Ireland had to keep following some EU rules. If the new Windsor framework can get across the line, then sighs of relief will be added to the messages of approval from the White House, Dublin, London and Brussels. Huge investments are going to be needed if the European Union is to achieve its renewable energy plans. That's the main message being shared among EU energy ministers at a two-day meeting in Stockholm that kicked off on Monday. It was centred on shoring up energy supply and reforming the electricity market. After the first day of talks, ministers stressed the need for more fossil-free electricity and the importance of developing better infrastructure such as charging points.
Many ministers highlighted the need to get more and cheap fossil-free electricity in place for industrial competitiveness. Regarding e-mobility, sustainable biofuels and electrofuels, we seem to agree that we need all solutions and let market mechanisms develop the most cost-efficient alternatives.
Let me end by reminding everyone that we will need significant investment to go from ambition to reality. Our assessment before the Green Deal showed investment needs for the vehicles and infrastructure needed for low-carbon mobility to be around 130 billion euros per year.
Meanwhile, France is seeking an alliance to push nuclear power as clean energy, and discussions on electricity market reform continue, with ministers hoping to shield consumer energy bills from short-term price spikes. Ukraine is warning that the situation around the frontline hotspot of Bakhmut is getting increasingly difficult. President Zelensky says Russian forces are destroying everything that can be used to protect Ukrainian positions, and drone images appear to back that up. These are some of the Ukrainian soldiers trying to hold Russian troops at bay.
Але малі групи більше вони не можуть, так як на Солидарі, вони там 50-30 чоловік не біжать. Вони біжать по 10, стандартна схема, накопичується далі. Але до чого я вів, що це якісь регулярні війська, і вони евакуюють своїх 200-х, вони витягують своїх 200-х, вони цим паряться.
In the capital, Kyiv, the Ukrainian leader welcomed US Secretary of the Treasury Janet Yellen. The United States is sending more financial aid to Ukraine to the tune of almost €1 billion. Washington has provided Kyiv with nearly €47 billion in assistance over the past year, just days after the UN General Assembly voted overwhelmingly to demand Russia withdraw from Ukraine. Moscow's war also dominated the opening of the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva.
Elle inflige d'indicibles souffrances au peuple ukrainien. Exactions massives et généralisées contre des civils, tueries, viols de masse, attaques délibérées contre des hôpitaux, des écoles, des maternités, déplacements forcés de population, déportation d'enfants.
Moscow will send Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov to address the Council in person on Thursday.
To His Excellency, Mr. Sylvie.
In the devastated streets of the Ukrainian city of Bucha, the scene of infamous massacres last year, reconstruction is underway. And despite the tragedy that unfolded here, Bucha has now opened its doors to refugees from the country's war-torn regions. This temporary housing unit is hosting several dozen people coming from eastern Ukraine. A humanitarian organisation was delivering food on the day Euronews correspondent Valery Goria visited.
Привет.
Tatiana is the coordinator of the small community. She fled the Donetsk region. As part of an organisation defending political prisoners, she is fighting to save her husband's life.
Мой дом оккупирован с 2014 года. В 2017 году за то, что мы остались украинцами на оккупированной территории, мой муж был похищен и уже находится в плену 6-й год. Мой муж прошел концлагерь, это изоляция, где он пробыл 10 месяцев. Его подвергали просто нечеловеческим пыткам и последствия этих пыток, то есть ухудшение состояния здоровья. У него переломаны ребра, спаленные все кишки от пыток тока. То есть он сейчас в крайне критическом состоянии. Медицинская помощь не оказывается, препараты не даются. Есть люди, которые лежат, под себя ходят, ребята за ними ухаживают. То есть они не передвигаются по 75 лет. Есть женщины в тяжелом состоянии. И Российская Федерация блокирует освобождение таких людей. То есть мы хотим, чтобы вообще нам помог весь мир подключить все возможные СМИ, которые начали бы кричать об этих вопиющих нарушениях Женевской конвенции. Это хуже фашизма, то, что происходит сейчас в 21 веке в центре Европы.
The Council of Europe has sounded the alarm on the conditions Ukrainian citizens in both Russia and Crimea are enduring under detention since Russia annexed Crimea in 2014. This on top of mounting allegations of war crimes.
En avril dernier, quelques 10 000 cas de crimes de guerre commis contre des civils avaient été recensés. Moins d'un an plus tard, c'est plus de 65 000 cas qui font l'objet d'enquêtes. Valérie Goria, à Bucha, pour Euronews.
Inna came to Spain with her daughter to flee the war in Ukraine. After spending several months in a reception centre, she now lives with a Spanish host family. They say they're deeply grateful for the help they've received from the government, NGOs and Spanish society as a whole. But 1 year on from Russia's invasion, many refugees are still struggling to settle in Spain.
Перша проблема – це незнання мови. Без знання мови жодної роботи не знайдеш. Тому ми почали вчити мову. По-друге, треба підтвердити свій диплом.
Only 15% of refugees have found a job in Spain, compared to an average of 40% in Europe. Many of them are forced to rely on savings and the help of families and NGOs to survive.
Only my parents from Ukraine, they send me money.
160,000 Ukrainians were granted temporary protection in Spain, but 60,000 of them still aren't registered to a Spanish address.
De verdad, hay muchas personas que no tienen casas, que están desplazados, o unos familiares o unos conocidos ucranianos que viven por aquí.
Thousands have been forced to return to Ukraine or move to other countries with better job opportunities and financial aid for both refugees and host families.
Creo que la mitad sí que se quedan de los que están, pero claro, pueden llegar nuevas.
Ukrainian and Spanish associations have demanded financial help for those displaced by the war. The Spanish government promised a monthly €400 subsidy for them, which is only now starting to arrive.
No entendemos cómo unas ayudas ya aprobadas todavía no estén circulando un año después.
At least 22,000 Ukrainian families have already made their way back home since August, despite not knowing how much home they have left.
Porque a medida que el Kremlin recrudece su ofensiva sobre Ucrania, Europa deberá prepararse de nuevo para un posible éxodo ucraniano con decenas de miles de desplazados. En Madrid, Jaime Velázquez, Euronews.
Nearly all flights at Cologne, Bonn and the nearby Düsseldorf airports in Germany were cancelled or diverted due to strikes on Monday. Industrial action affected some local transport, daycare facilities and local administration, as well as buses and trams in the western state of North Rhine-Westphalia. Unions are seeking a 10.5% pay rise, while employers have offered an increase of 5% in 2 stages and a one-time payment of €2,500 per employee. Aftershocks are continuing to traumatize earthquake survivors of the devastated parts of Turkey and Syria earlier this month. Some are staying outdoors, even if they have apartments that have not been damaged. Others are living in tents or even cars. There have been 4 new earthquakes and 45 aftershocks of magnitudes 5 to 6 since the 2 devastating quakes on February the 6th.